Hey there, cats and kittens. We're here with Mr. Grant Kemp from Grant Teach Me Something, creativecashflow.com, the king of Subject 2, Mr. None other than Grant Kemp. I love having you here today. How you doing, man?
I am doing great. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining in. Everybody that's watching with us. Hope y'all are doing well. I'm super excited about this episode this morning. I think it's been huge. This is something that we talked about last week, Daniel and I, after we got off of the call, and I just can't. So much feedback from people who just really want to know what it's actually like, and trying in every way to just get that experience, and it's hard if you don't experience on making these calls. It can be really difficult to know what to say, how to say it, when to say it. It can be really easy to just over pedestalize it, as they would say in the 40 region, and get scared of the call when there's really nothing to be scared of, right? So Daniel, you've done lots of acquisitions, lots of phone calls. When people are worried about getting on the call, what's something to tell them? What's some advice or just kind of something you want to say about getting on a phone call with a seller?
Man, that's a tough one. See, I think many people out there would probably not realize how introverted I am, but the phone calls are definitely something that scared the living hell out of me starting out. I had a mentor, Jason Palliser, that recommended to me go out there and cold call 100 FISBOs a day. Regardless, like I started even trying to make excuses. Well, I can't find 100 FISBOs in Dallas after 3 days. And he's like, well, call them in Seattle, call them in Omaha, call them in New York. It don't matter where you call them, just call them. And one of the things I had to do on every one of those calls is make an offer for half of what they were asking for the house. And after making, 600-700 of those calls, I started realizing, I saw patterns in the conversations, and through seeing those patterns, I was able to kind of change up how I was making my delivery and the things I was doing. One of the primary things I learned was that when you're making a half price offer on these houses, you get hung up on real fast. So I learned how to navigate those, work through those. But Subject 2 is a slightly different beast, and I'm excited to be on this call today because I believe the first Subject 2 transaction I ever signed off on was in the dining room of a Whataburger in Saginaw, Texas, and that was my very first Subject 2. So you ready to look forward? You looking forward to this one today?
I'm super looking forward to it, and I would like to hear y'all's feedbacks. I would actually like as part of the you're dropping in a comment how you feel about phone calls, and if you have kind of gotten past that big barrier that so many of us have when getting into it for the first time. Daniel, he's right. He's very introverted. Hard for an introvert to go do a sales call, right? Much less actually showing up to a place, but calling some random person and saying, hey, I would like to buy your house at a discount. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do, like, I'm sure y'all have seen those YouTube reactions. Somebody acts like they're seeing or hearing a song for the first time, and oh, my mind is blown. And I won't act like I've never watched one of those, but we're going to kind of take a similar approach today, and we're going to listen to one of my phone calls where I was able to get to a yes on a sub-2 on the very first conversation that we had. And I think that it's really important to have that kind of I don't know, to what that looks like, because I think that it might break down some of those walls for you guys and show you, hey, the stuff that I've been teaching works, right? Like it's actually what I use, and B, just being able to see how people actually respond to that is going to be really important. So we do want to start off with a couple of things. This was recorded in a single consent state. I've got a model release from and stuff on being able to do this, but even with that, I edited out like names and addresses and stuff. You'll hear a bleep whenever we go to there. B, this is going to be the full phone call from start to finish, and it's a 20-minute. This is a call that I did many years ago, actually. The reason why I'm using this one is because I had already had it recorded and set aside. But the funny thing is like I got some requests from people who wanted to hear, like, what does it sound like? It's like, okay, my system to like start recording these things. And this was literally the very first call that I made after that, right? As we got to yes. And I think the important thing of pointing that out is if you know how to talk to people and you know what you're talking about, should have a high conversion rate. You should have the ability to get to yes when there is somebody that needs you to help them in their situation. We want to be super duper clear that what we're talking about, like psychology and this and that and the other, and like that's because sales are sales, right? Like sales, I apply sales to everything, literally, from how I got my wife has sales principles in it, right? Like how you talk to your friends, it's all rapport, all that kind of stuff. We're clear that we're never going to try to convince somebody to do something that's not in their best interest, right? And that's not our call to make. What is or is not in somebody else's best interest. But where I will go with it, there have been many times where I will walk away from a property and point them into another solution because that's what's right for them. So when I say, like, it's not our place to make that call of if it's, sometimes if we know that our offer is not going to be right, then don't try to push your offer on that, right? But if you are offering something that you feel legitimately is going to help them out, then offer it. A language that they can understand. I kind of equate sales and psychology to, if you're trying to, get a candy bar from a store, and I don't know, I'm gonna make an elaborate whatever, like you fall down and break your knee, or you're practicing fighting because your name is Daniel and you break your knee, and you're like 4 feet from that candy bar and Spanish right in front of it. If you're going to ask them, like, hey, can I have that candy bar? And they only speak Spanish, you're not on the same page. So you need to understand what language if you want to have a situation where you're both going to benefit from that, right? If you were like, dude, I broke my knee, I can't get there, I'll give you $5 if you hand me that Snickers bar because I just really want a Snickers bar. And he's like, okay, then you're. But if you learn his language and you can speak in Spanish, then you're going to have a transaction that works. That's what I mean by psychology and by sales, is that we have to understand that the people that are on the other side of the table speak a different language oftentimes than we do. And that is because everybody has their own life experiences and their own things that matter to them. And our job is to figure out what matters to them and make sure that we are giving them that, simultaneously doing that in a way that is going to be beneficial to ourselves. Daniel, is there anything that you would like to add or change to what I just said?
I mean, on my side, like, the verbiage means a lot, and when you go to a seller that's got limited to no equity or anything along the lines where you're seeing the opportunity to do a subject to financing deal, the words you choose do mean quite a bit, because I don't sit down with the seller and I'm like, I'd like to take over your property subject to the existing lien in place, and then go ahead and take over and move forward making payments on your behalf from that point standing forward. They don't understand a whole bunch of that, so I try not to confuse them with a bunch of words that may not understand. So when you're talking about using the same language, like, I have to understand at times there's going to be words that I'll use that they don't understand, and I need to make sure that I say it in a way that makes sense to them, but at the exact same time, throughout the conversation, start leading them towards using the words that truly apply to it, so that way not only do they get an understanding of it from the beginning, but by the end of it they have a strong enough understanding of what's going on that they're not confused. And it takes, in my opinion, a little bit of an art to get them from not really understanding at all what's going on there to, at the end of it, having a strong understanding of what's going on and making an informed decision that's not clouded in confusion.
Right. I love how you put that. Right. So just so you guys know, I will be posting this call up, and I'll give you the link later on in this episode, so that if you want to re-listen to the call over and over again and kind of hear what's going on with it, you'll be able to do that. There is also, I put like a kind of scroller at the bottom that's going to recap some of the today, as far as like why certain things are being said when they are, and that kind of thing. But Daniel, here's what we'll do. And actually, I didn't ask you this beforehand, but if you see anything that sticks out to you and you want me to hit pause so that we can like talk about that for a second, up or something on the Zoom call, so that I know that you hear something, you're like, oh, let's talk about that for a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit play. We're going to listen to this entire call, and we're going to pause it sporadically through the call, and we're going to discuss what said and how that was beneficial to the ultimate goals that were going on there. And if you guys have questions, we would love to answer them. My lovely assistant, Ika, is paying attention to the comments, both YouTube, Facebook, wherever this is streaming. She's paying into the comments, or paying attention to those. So please comment, ask questions, do likes, we'll address those. Fernando Vargas says, this topic is lit, just what I needed. Angel or Archangel 3579, I've been waiting for this. So I'm so glad that you guys are in. All right.
Hold on.
You guys, yeah.
2 seconds before we go in, can you spend like 30 seconds at the most looking at your mic to see if you're clipping? I don't know what's going on. It doesn't seem like an internet connection, but like every 30 to 45 seconds, I lose like a second of your audio.
Yeah, I know. And I think that it's because of the setup that I had to jankify in order to get my desktop audio to push through.
Okay.
So I think we're just going to have to bear with that for today, and I'll do some more testing for.
All right, well, let's kick this off. I'm ready to see. Teach me something.
All right. So let's roll on this. All right. I'm going to hit play. Daniel, if you see something, just raise your hand up. We're going to listen to sections, and we're going to dissect those sections together.
All right, let's do it.
Hello.
Hi there. My name's Grant Kemp. I got your phone number from Josh. He told me to give you a call about your house over there on Street. Is this?
Yes. Yes,
Hey.
this is her.
Fantastic. How are you doing today?
I promise we will listen to more than 3 seconds at a time. Thing that I wanted to point out. One of the things that is interesting to me as an educator is that I constantly have people ask me, well, where do you get these leads, right? And I constantly refer back to the importance of the social marketing. If you are able to buy with seller financed offers, that means that you can make offers that and if a wholesaler cannot match that offer, you can make a larger offer. And so therefore, you can take down deals that wholesalers can't, and you need to be networking with wholesalers and asking them, hey, what are you doing with leads where somebody owes more than what you can offer, or is just unwilling to accept the offer that you have put in front of them? And they will always result in some sort of an answer that says, I'm throwing them away. And so that's where you say, okay, well, here's the thing. I specialize in low equity deals. If you run into that next time, give the lead to me, send it over to me with owner financing, or I'll take it down with owner financing. I'll turn around and sell it with owner financing. And when that deal closes, I'll pay you for the lead. Here's the key phrase. That way you're paying for your marketing campaign. You're paying for your marketing campaign out of your trash can. They're taking their dead leads, making money on it that can pay for that entire campaign. So that's where I got this lead. This lead was from networking with other wholesalers, and I can take down deals that you are not going to be able to take down. So shoot them to me. And we had a good relationship with this particular company who sent several deals to us. And this was one of those deals. So it really helps you in a lot of different ways. And I'm not going to, because I think we can dive that deep into the strategy of working with wholesalers on a whole separate episode. But that's where we got this from.
I'm doing good.
Good. You trying to stay dry?
Yes, and you know what? It's very impossible.
Yeah, I know. I've gotten really lucky because it starts raining, and then I'll wait for a little while, and just when I have to go out the door, it actually stops for 5 seconds. And so I run to the car, get in the car, and then drive, and then it starts raining, So I've actually gotten lucky today. It stayed pretty much dry.
Well, that's good.
Except for when my dogs needed to go out this morning, and I had to stand in the rain and drench myself as they decided whether or not they were going to use the bathroom.
Yeah, and the dogs don't care if they get wet or not. All they care about is doing their business.
Yeah, they're having a good time. Okay, well, great. Well, tell me a little bit about what's going on over.
So what just happened there?
Open-ended question.
Daniel.
Open-ended question. What's going on over there? That's just like opening up the box. That's saying, like, give me everything you want to give me. That question can sometimes turn into 15 minutes, or every once in a while you get a seller that somehow or another pulls that off in a second and a half.
Yep, absolutely. And so by open-ended question, we mean we want to ask questions that do not have a yes or no answer most of the time, right? There's the Chris Voss, let him get no out. And I like that principle. So we'll mix that in there. But open-ended questions are, what, why, when, those kinds of things where they have to yap for a while. But here's what happened on this initial part. I love a quote that I'm stealing from Daniel Moore, and I always give Daniel credit for this quote, and maybe it came from someplace else. But he said in the past, rapport has bought more houses than money ever has. So what did I wait for before jumping into talking about business?
You started building a little bit of rapport. You're talking about the weather. You're talking about the dogs. You're getting that conversation going, humanizing yourself a little bit, going through and giving yourself a human element to the conversation.
Absolutely. And as soon as she laughed and I got a couple of giggles out of her, okay, we're good to go, right? Like those laughs are super important. So I kind of take this approach of, we need to get them laughing, smiling as soon as possible. And when we get that laugh or smile, then we've got a connection at least enough to kind of move forward. My sales and operations manager has centers and stuff and built call centers in his past. And so one of the techniques that he's used that I would encourage you guys to do, if you have a place that you like to take your phone calls from, stick a mirror like right in front of you. You can hear a smile, believe it or not, right? Like you can hear when I'm talking like this versus if I have my mouth closed. I'll try to not mess it, but like you get a lot more high end out of when you're smiling. So when you call, like give them a little smirk and be talking about it, because if you just talk with your mouth like completely deadened, it sounds like that, and subconsciously, that matters, right? We want to smile when we're talking to them. Actually, anthropologists even theorize that might be part of why we smile, is because, like a lot of primates, when they smile, it's a threat. Ours is fun, but it was somewhat as we laugh and we smile and we're hunting and looking different directions, we're able to build rapport with each other because we can hear that the other person is happy and we don't have to be seeing them because we're looking out for threats and food. So just an interesting background on that. We get a laugh, and then we immediately jump in for a question to get into the property.
We're here over on stand in the rain and drench myself as they decided whether or not they were going to use the bathroom.
Yeah, and the dogs don't care if they get wet or not. All they care about is doing their business.
Yeah, they're having a good time. Okay, well, great. Well, tell me a little bit about what's going on over on with your house.
Okay, well, we're trying to sell it because we're moving back to Arkansas.
Real quick, the reason I also want to point out, the reason why I said, tell me what's going on over here at in your house, is I don't even Google the address until I know that there's a good chance this person's saying yes, because it is a waste of your time. If you are making call after call after call, don't run comps. Don't go look where it is on the map. Don't go see how many beds and baths it is. Don't spend prepping for the call because I don't know if I called her and she goes, hey, thanks for calling me back. I sold it yesterday. And I just wasted 30 minutes making sure I was prepared for my call. Google Maps an address until I'm on the call and I know that there's a likelihood that they're going to say yes. Daniel, do you feel differently on that?
I do. To some point, like I'm absolutely against the preparing for the call by figuring out all the details of the house, doing the research, and then calling. They don't even answer the phone, and you just wasted 15 to 20 minutes. But on my side, I do like to get on Propelio, and the second I've got a live person in front of me, I'll just type the address in because it takes like 5 seconds, and within that 5 seconds, I know who the owner is in front of me. And I just click around and look at it while I ask that open-ended question. Because once I get them talking, I'll listen for cues from their tone as well as the key words that they're saying. But while they're doing that, I'll just spend like 30, 45 seconds browsing around, getting a general idea what's going on with the house. But I don't do that until I get on the phone.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. All right, so that's why I stumbled over the address, just giving you guys the idea, because a lot of people that are new to making these calls, you get nervous about making the call and you feel like you'll be better if you look at reality. You're wasting your time. But like Daniel said, as soon as they get on, you can look at stuff too.
One because my husband's got a job transfer. And
Okay, well, great. Well, tell me a little bit about what's going on over on with your house.
Okay, well, we're trying to sell it because we're moving back to Arkansas for one, because my husband's got a job transfer. And we're just waiting for the transfer to go through.
Okay.
And we've been wanting to sell it for a while, but it hasn't been an opportunity like he's got right now.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons.
That makes sense.
And unfortunately, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
but the other reason, unfortunately, ain't very good.
Okay.
We got a little foundation problems. It didn't really start showing it until the end of last year. It started showing it, and we were also told that the ground there or the dirt there in Mesquite, all the houses there has problems with foundation.
Yeah, they do. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Mesquite is just notorious about foundation problems.
So that took several minutes. I say several, probably 2 or 3 minutes to tell me what's going on with this house. So Daniel, what did you pick up on from her answers?
I heard several key things there. So I always look for signs of likely motivation. Likely motivation number one that I heard was the job transfer. That's a very common one that you'll see, is somebody that needs to move and doesn't really have the ability to get the home sold due to the repairs needed and or the lack of equity. And so that was key number one. I was like, okay, and now I know they're moving out of state. They're moving to Arkansas. Job got transferred. This is a pretty much, I need to get it gone. This isn't something they can really wait around about for the most part. So that was number one that indicated that there was an issue going on there. And then number two is she says, okay, I've got foundation problems. So these are both things that are telling me that this property is probably not prepped for a retail sale. And there is a dire need that's going to get more and more pressing as the transfer date gets near. So two clear signs of motivations popping up there.
Absolutely. And frankly, not everybody is going to be so open and willing to share, motivations. But our job is to continue asking these open-ended questions until we can kind of pull some of these motivations out. So you're absolutely right. They're going to be moving. They do have foundation problems, right? What else? If we're just going to take a quick stab at like personality, what would be some things that from this first, I can't tell the timestamp here, like 3 minutes of talking to them, that you may, Daniel, have picked up on how you're going to approach this conversation and this negotiation with
I'm leaning towards she's an emotional person, an emotional thinker, and the way she's going to deal with everything is likely going to come from how she feels about it. I don't really see any signs of being the very analytical left brain style. So I tend to keep my conversations with her a little more personable, a little bit more on the feelings type of thing, versus the okay, let me get in real deep on the analytics side of it. And depending upon their personality, would really depend upon which direction I go as to analytics or emotions.
I'm so glad that you said that, because that's actually exactly what I was hopeful that you would pick up on and talk about, because I've talked about this a lot in our negotiations of people make decisions with their head, their heart, or their gut, right? Like head people want to know all the numbers. Heart people want to feel good about the situation, and gut people want to feel like they feel good about the situation, right? And everybody kind of presents themselves a little bit differently. And so we go into that with the negotiations masterclass on my academy, and for the members there, if you are a member, you can go watch more on that. But absolutely, she is a heart-driven person. She's got that nice down-home Southern drawl. She was real quick to laugh. She's been very friendly with us. She's very open and trusting with her information, right? These are clues to us that we're going to want to be a friend, an emotional and supportive assistant to guiding her along. Where if she had jumped in talking solely about numbers, solely about head stuff, which I actually have another call where I got to a yes with like a super head guy, like super needed all the numbers. I don't think we'll have time to do this today, but we can, if y'all like how we've done this, we can do this again in several weeks if you guys request it and you like this. But here's an opportunity here. She gave us some feedback of what her motivations are, and sales is education, period. To remember that. Sales is education. And what I mean by that is you are teaching the person on the other side of the table the entire time. You're teaching them how to treat you and how you're going to treat them. You're teaching them the background of the solution that you're going to offer. And that's a huge part of getting to yes, is educating why you're going to be the best option. A big part of rapport and a big part of my style of buying is to find opportunities to kind of assert yourself as an authority in the industry. Okay, I buy houses differently. I buy houses differently than Daniel. Daniel buys houses differently than Ronnie. Ronnie buys houses differently than John. But all of us are going to be using the same principles. We're all speaking Latin languages, right? Daniel might be speaking Spanish, I might be speaking English, we might have Italian over here, but they're all based in Latin. And in that Latin, it's this consultative, we're going to help you. I say that because my success comes very often in presenting as an authority. Okay, that's one of the principles of influence. I really liked Cialdini's book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. And there's things like social proof that are important. Authority is important. Scarcity is important. You know, there's all these, there's like, that are very important. And authority tends to be one of my areas. Either way, this is something I want you to use. I want you to find opportunities in a very friendly manner, teach your seller something at some point in time in a very non-confrontational, just like, hey, we're having a conversation. Let me just tell you about this thing, which is going to do it's going to help them understand that you're here to help them, because educators are here to help. And it's also going to cement yourself as an authority who knows what they're talking about if you can very casually explain something that they may not understand fully. So I took this opportunity when she mentioned foundation
and
to
really
start
Texas,
talking foundation.
You know, they do. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
I mean, Mesquite is just notorious about foundation problems. And really Texas, you know, it's this clay-based soil that we have in Texas. Foundation problems occur. Which, you know, on one hand, it's okay, well, good, well, everybody has it. But on the other hand, it's like, oh, my gosh, but it's still $10,000 worth of work.
Yes, yes.
Daniel, did you pick up on something that I did right there? Oh shoot! When you're messing with my volume up there, you might not have been able to see it. Did you hear what I just did there?
I was honestly
I'm actually
trying
gonna
to
play
take
that.
care of a problem on the side, so I didn't see it. So how about we go
I'm gonna
back to
rewind
it?
it because I think that you're gonna pick up on this, and it's only a couple of
It-
seconds.
You know, it's this clay-based soil. It's just
All the houses there has problems with foundation.
yeah, they do. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
I mean, Mesquite is just notorious about foundation problems, and really Texas. You know, it's this clay-based soil that we have in Texas. Foundation problems occur, which, you know, on one hand it's like, okay, well, good, well, everybody has it, but on the other hand it's like, oh my gosh, but it's still $10,000 worth of work.
Yes, yes.
What were some of the parts that I did? I was educating her there, but did you pick up on something that I
So
threw in
several
there?
things that I saw from there on my side was you agreed with her and you established that she was correct, therefore furthering that relationship building process. From there, you acknowledged that her information received about Mesquite being notorious for foundation was a problem, and then you go even further from there and you drop a price point on there of like, yeah, well, at least everybody's got the problem, but it still doesn't change the fact that it costs 10 grand to fix it. And while that was subtle, it was still very true, and you've planted a number in that seller's head which was likely very accurate and or very inaccurate. But the truth is 10 grand is about average for what I'd spend on a foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is exactly what I was hoping that you were going to pick up on. See, this is why I like working with people who are good, because I don't have to like keep asking you 17 questions. I really want, because that's exactly what I did, right? So we educated, like I talked about, like I fed into her. I brought value. I helped her understand that she was correct, which is also a rapport building thing. But I did drop in. You told me there's some foundation issues. It's probably going to be 10 grand to fix that, right? And I don't know what it's going to be, but at least I do know that now when we start talking numbers down the line, we have $10,000 implanted as like something that's going to happen with this foundation, which is not an unreasonable number to expect.
It's not at all.
I get
Like I've seen
foundations for way cheaper a lot of times, but 10 grand is not an unreasonable amount.
I'd say 10 grand's about average for what I was paying. So it wasn't like you said, oh, it's a $60,000 problem. I mean, that's rare. I've never seen personally one that bad, but I have spent 25 grand on a
Well,
foundation.
I have, but I
before.
didn't buy that house.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy something with 60 grand with the foundation, but let's see how this conversation goes, man. This is fun. Let's go.
It doesn't really look that bad, and it hasn't gotten as bad to where you can walk from one room to another and you feel like you're walking downhill.
like that room over in Six Flags. You ever been in that one?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, they got this room where you walk through it and you're leaning one way or the other, and it all plays tricks on your minds where it looks like balls are rolling uphill and all that kind of stuff because you're just wobbly inside of it. But if it's, as long as we're not that bad, we're okay.
No, we're not. I mean, matter of fact, if you didn't know what to look for,
Sure.
you wouldn't even know that you had foundation problems in that
Okay.
house.
So I'm guessing you've got some cracks on the walls and stuff like that.
That's
is what led
it.
you to start understanding
That's
that was there.
it right now. And
Okay.
some of the doors wouldn't shut,
Mhm.
you know, but they shut now. I mean, you know, we fixed them, you know, to where they would shut. We don't have no problems with them shutting.
Well,
But
with all the rain happening too, I'm sure it's adjusted back a little bit to help you out with that.
Yes,
Now,
I'm
for
sure
me,
it is too.
On
And
that side,
we have a
as a remodeler, all I just heard was, all right, all the doors used to work. The foundation had a problem. They jacked all the doors up so they'll close now. So whenever I fix the foundation, I now have to fix all the doors too. So on my side as a remodeler, all I just heard was, all right, they cut all the doors to fit the new door jambs. And when I level the house back out, I'm going to have to replace all those doors. That's all I heard.
Yeah. And it's funny because you got to be picking up on the subtext of things that are being said. That's why we ask these open-ended questions. It's because they're going to tell you something in passing that's going to tell a guy like Daniel. So what we saw in this last portion was, yeah, we're still talking foundation. Frankly, I'm going to focus on foundation for right here for a few different reasons. One, we can educate her, set ourselves as an authority. Two, we're putting a number to something. Try to figure out kind of what the scope of work might be, find some things out about this. Like you heard me very casually throw out like, oh, so you're just seeing some cracks about the doors or something like that, like, which she will either respond to that many of them, which might tell me, hey, this is just normal shifting, because the seller may or may not know what big foundation problems are. Or she may be like, oh yeah, we got some cracks, all right, right? Like, which might lead me into, okay, well, this might be. I relieved the pressure because we've talked about property and technicality for a while. And this is a heart person, right? This is an emotional, she wants a friend kind of person. So I had my internal clock go off. Hey, we've now, or we've talked business for a while now. So now I need to talk about something fun. So I found an opportunity. I've been looking for it for a minute. She said something and it reminded me of this like house that was at Six Flags. I don't even know if they still have it there. So I tell a funny little story, relieve the pressure from the conversation, and then we jump right back in and we start going back into it.
Minor, it's not major. We have a minor problem with a pipe underneath our house. It has come disconnected, and we've had a man to come look at it. He's a handyman, and my sister referred him. And he said that he had to wait until it was a dry day, which it seemed like it's just been impossible since we tried to get a hold of him, and he hasn't called us back. But I don't know for sure if it needs. I think it needs new parts. I think that's all it needs on it is new parts. But my husband knows anything. He don't know anything about plumbing. I don't know anything about plumbing.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a few parts that probably just needs to go up underneath the house, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I'm no plumber either, but been in this industry long enough to know a little bit on things here and there, and I can almost guarantee you that plumbing problem is why you have foundation problems.
It probably is.
Usually those go hand in hand, because the problem is what happens here in Texas with, like I said, with that the clay-based soil, is you've got whenever it gets moist, whenever water gets to it, it expands. Well, whenever it dries back out, it contracts. And so what happens is if you don't have a consistent level of moisture there somehow, then you start having expansion, contraction, eventually it separates out and gives the house a place to fall. All right. So when you've got that plumbing problem that goes on, and you've got some water.
By the way, you're all picking up that plumbing problem, right? One of the principles of rapport is mirroring, and if you cannot physically mirror somebody, in because you're on an in-person, you've got to pick up on some of their language. Likenesses.
Verbiage.
Yeah. Do they use certain words for something? Do they have a certain way of a conversation? Tony Robbins talks about this as like a, if you went into, or a suicidal person goes into a doctor, and they go in and they're just like, I just don't see doing this anymore, and I think it's time for me to go. And the doctor replies back with, well, here's the thing. I see how you feel, but I don't think it's time for you to go, man. You got it. They're going to leave that meeting and they're going to be like, oh man, that guy was down to earth. He understood what I was saying. And I think he's right. Meanwhile, if a guy goes in there and he's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm freaking out of here. And the doctor's like, don't be freaking out of here. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, you're not done with this at all. Sit down. The guy's going to leave like, he was right. He understands me. You have to mirror. And so pick up on little phraseologies that they say. Plumbing. My Southern drawl, I do have, my grandfather was oil rig worker, lived in a trailer. I do have that in my blood.
But someone down there, it's getting wet. And then maybe it doesn't get wet for a little while, or maybe it just keeps getting wet, keeps swelling. That's what causes those foundation problems, is because the soil underneath is getting messed with by that plumbing. So I would bet you we got something related going on there. I would bet you once we fix that plumbing and fix that foundation, that probably, and granted it's mesquite, we're gonna look at running into something like that again, but that'll probably keep it from getting any worse. Doing it that way. But it's just, that's something that we'll have to take into consideration. But that's okay. I work with that kind of stuff all the time, and I got good prices and good people, and we know how to handle that.
Matt Smith called this one out for me on the comments. He said, hey, when do you say that you get this stuff done for cheap? Because he's heard me negotiate or teach negotiations before. There you go. A great way to cement yourself is to say, I do this so much, that I get great prices. I've got volume discounts with all of my workers because I buy a bunch of houses. And so don't worry about that. I know that you brought this up because it's a big deal to you. It's not a big deal to me. Don't worry about it. I got you. Because now we're the guide. We're the one that like knows what's going on. And if you look at creating a story brand from like Simon Sinek, it's why I have this Yoda right here that the wonderful Sonia Ray gave me. It's because we want to be the guide. We don't want. There's only one hero in the story. Our seller is the hero. Everyone wakes up every morning the protagonist of their own story. So if we come in about how awesome we are and blah, 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 and like, oh, well, I do all this kind of stuff. Well, we're the hero. And they may be like, hey, that's a really, I like watching that movie. But we're not connected to their story. Meanwhile, this is part of the educational thing. Luke Skywalker was the hero. He's the protagonist, but he was weak and broken and sucked at things. Weak and broken and sucked at things? Yoda. Yoda did everything right. Yoda was the strongest character in the movie. And nobody had a single doubt when Luke Skywalker shows up to Yoda that Yoda's going to be the guy that gets Luke where he needs to go. Ourselves as a guide who can get them where they need to go. And guides are not weak and broken. Guides have everything all figured out. And so to us, hey, don't worry about it. I get all that stuff done for cheap. I've got good prices on that. We'll be able to take care of that. We're taking it into consideration, but don't worry about it. Anything you wanted to add in on that, Daniel?
Not really. I mean, overall, this conversation is moving along fairly smoothly. She's very open with her communication, and she's being very easy to work with. The people I definitely don't like getting on the phone with are the ones that figure out how to take an open-ended question and answer it with a yes or no. It's like, how are things going over there? Yes. It's like, okay, this is going to be a difficult call for me.
All right, let's jump back in.
Okay, well, good. But that's the only two problems we got. I mean, other than that, I love my little house. It's a cute little house. I mean, I fell in love with it when I first saw it.
Did you?
You know, so
How long
yes.
ago did you buy it?
It's been a little bit over a year. It was in December of 2014. No.
I'm trying to see how far into her loan she is. That's why I asked that question. You should always ask when they buy it, when they got their loan.
Wait a
There
minute.
was something else on top of that was pretty apparent. Is she really clarified right there that she's an emotional decision maker? I mean, she said exactly how that she found that house. She's like, as soon as I saw it, I fell in love with it. It was the house I wanted. Blank, blank, blank. Very, very emotional response. Very emotional words.
Thank you for pulling that out. Very true. Emotional people are going to use visual language, talk about their family at some point in time, and stuff like that is great. Good job.
You slept since then.
Yeah. Well, it was a year. No.
And real quick.
Wait a minute.
Did you buy it?
It's been a little bit over a year. It was in December of 2014. No.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
You slept since then.
Yeah. Well, it was a year. It's been a year since we bought it. So funny.
She's nervous. You know, like this is a big decision for her, especially for an emotional person. I know because from a wholesaler that could not take it down. I know that this is a low equity deal. I know this entire conversation. So like we got a question here from Jason Lombardi saying, how do I explain sub-2 to a seller? Guess what? I've known this entire time in sub-2. I knew that coming in. What you're seeing is how to explain sub-2 to a seller. I know I'm about to have to talk about some really technical, complicated stuff to an emotional seller-based decision maker who's got a Southern drawl. She takes things a little bit slower, you know, that kind of stuff. Because of that knowledge, because I know that in the future, I'm going to have to hit her with some real technical, heavy stuff. I need for her to not, I can't have her feel stupid. I'm trying to repeat myself when the audio cuts out. I can't have her feel stupid. So when she has any opportunity to feel dumb about something, she's like, it's like, when did you buy this? Well, I bought it about a year ago. Well, maybe it was, gosh, I can't think about when it, I throw a, hey man, you slept since then. Don't worry about it. It's all good, right? Don't feel bad about that. Like we're fine. And it gave her an emotional release because this is so stressful. She starts cracking up about it.
It's all right. So here's, I did look up a little picture of it. It is a cute little house. I like those little houses. Is it the little frame house? Looks like it's on a corner.
Yes.
And that's where I that's where I Google Maps it, right? I got enough laughs. She gave me the house, and now I'm looking at it, and I wanted to make sure that that was her house, because at that time the maps weren't always entirely accurate, because I want to make sure that's the house before I hop to my other tab and start running some comps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a cute little house over there by Mesquite High School. Yeah, and
Yes, it is.
and I like that area. I work into it a lot, and that's why Josh, passed this number on to us, because just to tell you a little bit about who I am and what we do. We buy houses all over DFW, and I'm able to buy it at in ways that other investors can't really necessarily touch. He needed a lot larger of a discount in order to make this work for him, right? But I am usually able to come in and make these work for people. So as I understand it, you owe somewhere around.
Gave her a reinforcement that we're here because that other guy couldn't do it. And guess what? Basically all the other options you have in DFW are that guy. So we're trying to cement ourselves. It's like, we're basically the guy. We're your guide. We're the only one that's going to be able to help you through this. Again, we know we're in a low equity deal going for sub-2.
60,000, right, on this house still.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But I am usually able to come in and make these work for people. So as I understand it, you owe somewhere around 60,000, right, on this house still.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about when you're going over into Arkansas. What are you planning on doing when you move to Arkansas? Are you going to be?
Okay. Well, my husband is trying to get. Well, he's trying to get a second loan with the bank that we're already buying from.
Okay.
He's trying to get a second loan on that, and so far as we know of he qualifies for it.
Oh, good.
You know,
good. So they're already factoring in the fact that you've still got this house right here. Whenever they're qualifying.
Okay. And yes, and they know that we're trying to sell it.
Okay.
So
now are they hinging your approval on the sale of this house, or are they saying
no?
Okay, good.
No, I mean
that's perfect.
They haven't said anything negative at all about it.
Good. So the reason I asked that is because that means that I can definitely get you guys taken care of. If they're not hinging that,
No, they're not
on the sale.
Why am I asking that? Why is that part of the conversation there, Daniel?
Because a lot of times a seller will either be aware or not aware of the fact that they may or may not get approved for a new loan, because if this existing loan stays on their credit report, that will get factored into their debt to income. So if they're looking to purchase a new home in Arkansas and the bank will look at this and include it on their debt to income, then they may not have enough income to purchase a new home in Arkansas, which might become a problem for them if you purchase this property in a subject to fashion that does not clear it off of their credit report. But from her conversation, this doesn't have to clear off her credit report to get approved for a new loan. So it seems like a prime opportunity to help her out.
Yep, absolutely. That's why I asked that. So I hope you guys all pick up on that. Like she said, I want to go get another loan, because I asked, what's your plan when you get to the next place? Because I needed to know, are you trying to buy another rent for a year? What are you planning on doing? Because that's going to affect my ability to sub-2 this house, or how I need to present what we're sub-2ing. She said, I want to buy a house. And then I said, okay, well, have you already gotten a loan? And she's looking for the loan. And I said, okay, well, did they say that this loan had to be paid off in order for you to get that one? Because they will tell you that when you're applying for a loan. And she's like, nope, this doesn't need to be paid off or anything. So now I've got a green light. We can sub-2. She's got low equity. She doesn't need it paid off for her to get her next plan made, right?
So here's the thing: is I can buy the house, even though, because right now, like you said, you bought it about a year ago, so prices haven't really changed much in that past year. We've got a preliminary value just looking over there of maybe $65,000 on the home on a sale side right now, right? So we're still owe pretty much what it's worth, but I'm able to buy it for what you guys owe. And the way that I can do that is I can purchase the house, and then what I'll do is I'll continue to pay that payment on your behalf. The payment that you've got with your bank currently, we'll just continue to pay that for you. And it'll be kind of like, as though you were renting it, where you've got somebody else in the house, but they're taking care of your mortgage, except even better, we'll own the house. You won't have to ever worry about taxes or insurance or repairs or any of that kind of stuff. That's what we take care of. But that's what allows us
okay.
to purchase it at a value that's higher than 98% of the investors in Texas are able to purchase at, is because of using this owner financing method. Basically, you're going to be financing that out to me by allowing me to continue to pay your bank on your behalf.
What did I not say there?
You didn't say you were going to assume their mortgage. You just said that you would make the payments on their behalf, and that's a very key indicator. Some very important words to use, because you will not be assuming their mortgage. You just repeatedly tell them, the reason I'm able to pay so much and the reason I'm able to pay more than 98% of other investors in Texas, which is very true, is because I'll purchase it with this owner financing method, and I'll just continue to make payments moving forward on your behalf. Other key things that you said during that conversation that are very important is you associated it to something that they were already familiar with, which would be renting. It's like kind of like having a tenant in there that is taking care of your mortgage for you, except for it's even better than that. So you kind of opened up to their concerns about renting. Most people are concerned about renting with tenants, toilets, trash, tenants messing up their property. And you said you get the benefit of somebody else paying your mortgage for you, but you don't have to deal with the taxes, insurance, and maintenance. I'll take care of all that for you. And so you've already handled objections that you knew were going to come down the line, and you explained it to her in a way that she was already familiar via the renting model, but you addressed the problems that she would have as a landlord, and you alleviated a lot of that. So you took a lot in on that brief moment.
Mm-hmm. I'm really glad you pointed all those things out, because yeah, those are all part of the skill of when we talk about. I've mentioned Chris Voss earlier in the thing. I'm not honestly a huge fan of never split the difference, but there are 2 or 3 big principles in there that I really like, and one is the accusation audit. This is an example of the accusation audit. Things that they may ask about, what about this? What about that? Well, who pays taxes? Who pays insurance? Well, what about if something breaks? Well, is the loan going to stay? All of that stuff, I was able to get that information in front of them in a very short period of time. And again, guys, I'm going to give you guys a link to where you'll be able to listen to this phone call and pause where you want, rewind and rescript and all that kind of stuff. But Daniel, you absolutely hit the nail on the head there.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
It does a little bit. I'm new at this, so
sure. Well, and that's fine.
I mean, it sounds good.
Yeah, and it is.
Okay.
It's a great option for you. To tell you a little bit more, I do about 5 to 7 of these a month. We do a large volume of this. And my company's been in business for over 25 years, and we've closed over 10,000 properties this way. So, I'm throwing out big numbers, but that's all to say that this isn't, this is we're the real deal. This is something that I really can get taken care of for you.
Okay.
For those of you who don't, I had not been doing this 25 years. I'm 31 years old right now. But my business partner at the time, Scott Horn, had been doing it 25 years. This company was in existence as we were partners on that. So therefore, we're able to numbers as a we kind of statement. So I don't want you guys to, if you don't know about my background, be like, he just lied to her. He hasn't been doing this 25 years. He's freaking 30 years old. That's where that comes from. Oops.
We'd be happy to get it going. So that being said, if you guys are willing to sell it for what you owe, then I'm willing to take a look at it, and I'm willing to move on this thing because I do like mesquite, right?
Can I say a few things there?
Make something work on.
There's a few things that I think are important there, and it was the key word that you use. If is a very strong statement. It's like, I will do this if you are willing to sell it for what you owe. So you've already planted the sales price into their head, and you've already prepped them with the simple fact of, I'm going to pay you what you owe for it, which is not more than what you owe for it. And you've said that several times already, and you use the word, if you're willing to sell it to me for what you owe. That is already, you've already discussed the price, and you haven't talked about a single number. All you said is, if you're willing to sell it to me for what you owe, then we're good for that. So if the seller starts coming back and being like, okay, well, I owe 64, if you'll give me 68, we'll be good on this. And you've already set the stage for the price you're willing to pay for it, and you've done it in a very subtle way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we reinforce that. Like you mentioned, like I've said that several times about, hey, you owe this. I also dropped in, look, prices haven't really changed over there. You're what you owe. And this is going to be big for this next cycle, right? Like, this is why one of the reasons I wanted to choose this call is because you guys need to learn how to do your pitch and like what we're about to see, not what you've seen for the last 4 or 5 years where everybody, the property values are going crazy and all that kind of stuff. And this is part of it. I said, look, looks like the houses over there are just about what you owe. Nothing's really changed over there. Several times saying, yeah, I'll buy it for what you owe. And there is the takeaway. Takeaway is very powerful, and you've got to be very careful with it of, all right, well, if you're willing to sell it for what you owe, then I'm willing to go forward with this. A testing statement like what Daniel's pointed out there in saying, if I don't get kickback right here, it's pedal on the metal, we're full gas, we're going to go. Had she been like, well, no, I need this and that and the other, negotiations have now opened up for a separate section of this deal. But I've set enough of the stage that during that next section, if she's like, I want 68, I've already told her the house isn't worth very much more. Already told her there's probably 10 grand worth of foundation work there. I've already told her it's going to take her more money to fix it than it would me, that I'm better than 98% of the other investors out there. So if I can't come up with an offer that's this high, no one else is going to be able. So don't even think about like, well, Grant just lowballed me, I'm just going to go try and find somebody else, because my offer is the highest offer. She said, this sounds pretty good. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is good. I can do better than anybody else can. So if she said, I need $4,000 on top of this, I've already laid the stage. I've pre-suaded, to use another Robert Cialdini phrase. I've set the stage up to where I can just be like, look, that doesn't make sense. And you already understand it doesn't make sense.
And something that I think is key to that conversation, or key to that point, is you didn't lie about any of this. None of this was smoke and mirrors trying to trick her into selling you the house. She owes what it's worth. It's got problems with it, which actually means she's upside down on it. And really, there is not many people in Texas that can do a subject to transaction with the authority that you have. So you have not lied to her in any way, and you've done nothing but really prep her for the simple fact that this is the best option. And really, I wholeheartedly believe that. I don't think there's a better option for her to get out from under this house than what you just expressed. So this isn't manipulation. This is just straightforward, helping her get to the understanding of what's best for her.
Side of, and you're absolutely right there. And the other side of things, to kind of go on the, if you're willing to sell for what you owe stuff, I don't need to do a much more work. I don't need to negotiate anymore. She can't give me a better deal than she's given me. If she's going to sell for what she owes, there's no point in me. I'm not going to try and have her bring money to the table. So we're going to go over today. I'm looking at how much time is left on this. I'm going to try to stop less of these just so that we can, get you guys out on a reasonable time. But we've got some more. But this is right here. There is a lot to unpack in every word that is said. Words matter. So let's listen to this and see how Sub 2 starts to flourish and how we explain Sub 2.
Okay, well, I talked to my husband this morning about it because that was what Josh said would be the best thing to do. And so when I talked to my husband about it, he said that, that was fine, that, that we could go ahead and do it that way if it needs to be that way. So when we go to do this.
Because I trained my wholesale JV partner a couple of things to tell sellers before having the seller call me.
So everything would be transferred over to your name, right?
Right. But I do want to throw out that it's you guys are still fully protected. Okay. So let me explain a little bit about how, just to get in kind of a little bit more of the nitty gritties, because I know you said you're new to it. It's not something you've researched a lot before. So just to kind of tell you where things go. When you bought your house from whoever, and you got your loan with, who's your loan with right now? Is it like Wells Fargo or somebody?
It's U.S. Bank.
U.S. Bank. Okay. So when you got your loan from U.S. Bank, what happened?
Guessing wrong is one of the tell you the truth. Guessing wrong is one of the quickest ways to get people to tell you the truth. What's it with? Wells Fargo? Yeah, she gave me the real
you got a warranty deed, and that got signed over to you, and that's what gave you the ownership of the house itself, right? But then in return, To the bank, you sign something called a deed of trust. And that deed of trust says, hey, U.S. Bank, I promise that I'm going to pay that $60,000 back to you. And if I don't, you have the option to foreclose on me and take the house back, right? We all understand how that works.
Yes.
So what we did when we sat down and we're looking at how can we use the model that the banks use in order to help the most people out that are in situations like yourself. Because you know what, I'll tell you something right now. You're not the only one who's needed to sell their house quick and has owed what it's worth, right? So there's a big market of people just like you that need to get out. And so we said, well, how do the banks do it? How are the banks able to make it to where people can buy at full?
Again, don't feel bad. Many people have gone through this. Social proof. I've worked with those people. They've chosen to work with
price and still make it work. And it's because of that deed of trust. It's because of that protection that they have there. So we mimic that. And that's what we do. So when you sell me the house, you're going to sign a warrant.
When you sell me the house, you're going, not if you sell, not if you decide to move forward. When you sell me the house, you're going to sign this
warranty
document.
deed to me. That's going to give me ownership of the property. And just like everything that goes with that, I'm going to pay for taxes. I'm going to pay for insurance. If any repairs pop up, I'm going to be the one that's responsible for them, so forth and so forth. But in return, I'm also going to sign to you a deed of trust that says, hey, Ramona, if I don't do like I said I'm going to do, which this has never happened in the past ever, but it's, we still want to keep you protected. So it says, hey, if I don't do like what I say I'm going to do, then you have every right to take this house back from me and do with it what you please. Okay, so that keeps you always protected. You're always the top man on the totem pole. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense.
Top man on the totem pole is a big visual language that I like to use with heart sellers because they need the feeling of being in control. That is also going to work well. It really works for head, heart, and gut, but visual language, what a totem pole looks like. We just explained how they're going to be able to take the house from us if we don't do what we said we we're going to do. I keep using the language, you are protected. I don't have to do this, but I want to make sure that you're protected. So we're giving them security, letting them feel like they're on top of the situation. Another big thing visually on that is if you have a seller say any kind of language like the house is on top of them, I need to get out from underneath this house. I feel like I'm under this pressure. Any of that visual language, you a sub-2 house. So we're using that principle and that knowledge with the totem pole analogy.
So that's kind of how we approach this to where it's a win-win for everybody. We're able to get that house out from under, or get you out from underneath that house. You're not going to have to worry about the payment anymore, and we'll take care of everything going forward. But it's always good to have that contingency plan as a seller because I know we've never met before, and I know that you trust me, and I know that we have a good relationship here already. But you should have that protection, and so we do offer that out for you, and that's how.
What did I just do there, Daniel?
You just created. You basically, how do I say that? You confirmed the relationship through the words you chose, and essentially said, I understand that we're friends. I understand that we trust each other. But even with that trust in place, we still need to keep you protected, and this is how we do it. So you basically just confirmed the rapport, you confirmed all of that, and then led it forward with how they're still protected.
Yep, absolutely. There's a big billboard principle of you drive by. I started thinking about this a while. There was a billboard says, had a picture of people that says, I love Baylor, Scott, and White because blank. Because when you read that, you read, I love Baylor, Scott, and White. With her, she may have liked me, but not yet have put language in her head about what. And so I'm helping bring that language up to the front and get that at the forefront of her mind. Look, I know you trust me. I know we're on the same page here, but I need to make sure that you're protected. So now when she thinks about Grant, she thinks about somebody that she trusts and is on the same page is doing the right thing by making sure that she's protected.
How you always stay in that number one spot.
Okay. Now, when can we meet face to face? I mean, is there?
I can come over. I'm actually freed up for the rest of the evening. So whenever you're free, I could actually hop on over there. My office is over here at Northwest Highway and 635. So I'm not too far from you.
Okay. Well, I get off of work at 7, and thank God my husband.
There was a few things there that you liked, and I know we're getting running along on this. So, key thing
I think
is
people are enjoying it. We're gonna run long, but
we got like 150 people watching right now between YouTube, the Propelio page, as well as the Propelio group. Those three locations, we're sitting at about 150 people watching. All of that taken into consideration, there was three things you did there that I liked. One, you said, I'm available this evening. When can we meet? You didn't say, you basically narrowed the window down to today. And whenever I'm dealing with a seller that I feel like I'm ready to go with, I try not to postpone that at all. You know, it's you gave them the opportunity of tonight. That's it. I liked that. And then number two was you said my office is at XYZ. That was subtle, but by saying that, you know, you had the office, that kind of gives you that added layer of comfort. One of the things that I've seen a lot with subject to sellers is they want to see your office. And I don't know why, but I believe that gives them a firm sense of establishment in your company. You know, if they're like, you're trying to, and I don't say this for people to freak out about, but they feel good when they can go to your office and sit down and know where you work. So that was a very big thing that I saw that you said there, and I liked, and I forgot what the third one was, but I wanted to bring that up because I've had several subject to people be like, where do you office? Can I come meet you at your office? Because they want to see that you've got your foundation planted somewhere.
And if you don't have that, because a lot of people don't have offices, find the way that you're going to brand that. You know, if you are a home officer, just say, well, you know, that's being 2020 is that we realized that the wisest usage of our money was no longer to go into an office space, but rather to spend it on making sure that we're taking care of our sellers in the best way possible. So what we do is we close at a title company, at an attorney's office, and you name which title company or which attorney's office you're going to close at. So when we go to closing, we're going to close with an attorney, and we're going to go, and their office is over here at XYZ Street. But in the meantime, I'd be happy to meet you up at a Starbucks over here at blank. You know, at one point in time, I could tell you where every Starbucks was in DFW because I would be able to meet sellers out there and do whatever. Daniel started this out saying his first contract was at a Whataburger.
Yep, the Whataburger right there on Main Street.
Just make sure you're branding yourself correctly, right? It's not a bad thing if you don't have your office. If you do, mention it like I did. If not, make sure you got a retort.
It's off today. That's the reason why we wanted to get something.
West Highway and 635. So I'm not too far from you.
Okay, well, I get off of work at 7, and thank God my husband's off today. That's the reason why we wanted to get something done today, because he's off today. He has to work Saturday. He's off Sunday, and I don't know what days he's off tomorrow, but he is off today.
Looks like the dominoes have fallen in the right spot then. That we're all available right now to get things taken care of.
Yes, so
reinforcing, hey, there's some external factor here, like everything is working out well. It's really good that you called me. It's really good. Hey, everything lines up. Let's get this done.
If you can come on over there sometimes this evening, that would be perfect.
Sure. Okay, so you said you get off at 7 or you get home at 7?
I get off at 7, so I'll be home around 7:30.
Okay. Well, let's plan on this. I'll hang out on this side of town. My parents live over here. Maybe I'll take them out to dinner or something like that, and then I will plan on meeting you over there at 7:45, 8 o'clock, something like that, and I will go ahead.
Okay.
I did take my parents out to dinner. So she's a heart seller, and she loves family, and so there's a little thing about me and my family.
And bring some contracts so that we can get things handled up, and plan on meeting you over there at 7:45, 8 o'clock, something like that. And I will go ahead and bring some contracts so that we can get things handled up and ready tonight. And just let your husband know that, you know, we're going to be ready to go. And so I'll just take a look at the house. And like I said, you know, with you in the position that you are, you know.
What was the big thing I just did there, Daniel?
I did my ADD and completely lost track of the call, so my bad.
No big deal. I said, when I come over, I'm going to have contracts to sign. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people make that go on. They do not prep the seller on the first phone call before that thing to say, when I show up, I'm going to have my contracts with me. So go ahead and be working on your mental state from here to then that lets you be ready to sign a contract. They're not surprised because you don't know what really happens when you're saying, I'm going to meet you there tonight. They don't know what the process looks like. So they may think, all right, Grant's going to come over. We're going to have some conversations. He'll probably go back to his office. He'll run some numbers. He'll print out some stuff. We'll talk and get something done. And then when you show up with a contract, they're like, ooh, whoa. I was super not ready for that. I need to sleep on this, blah, 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 blah. So you need to make sure on that call before you go to the meeting, I made sure that everyone be there. Right? Her husband and her will both be there, which means that all of the deciding people are going to be there. And B, I told her, when I come tonight, it is for the reason of signing these contracts. So go ahead and be ready to go. Go ahead and tell your husband that we're going to be ready to go tonight. Right? Set that stage so there's no surprises and you're ready to get it contracted.
No, you're willing to sell it for what you owe. I can't ask you to give me a better deal than that. So we're already agreed on a price. I know that I'm going to buy it for whatever it is that you still owe on the price. I'm not going to beat you up on that. And we will just be able to go forward from there.
About the 17th time I've reinforced that we're buying.
Okay, then. All right. I sure do appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely. It's good talking to you.
It's good talking to you, too. You really made me laugh. I needed that today because I've really been stressed. I needed that laugh, and it seems like that when you laugh good, it relieves a lot of the stress.
Oh, you're not joking. You got to be able to smile. You got to be able to smile and laugh through thick and thin, whatever's going on. So,
yeah.
But you called the right people. I really like Josh over there that you talked to before. He's a sharp guy. He knows what's going on, and we got a good relationship. And so, it's good that you were talking to him, because had you not called him, he wouldn't have known the right people to get, or you wouldn't have been with somebody who knew the right people to get you hooked up with. And
I would have been lost.
Yeah.
I would have been lost because my husband told me earlier when we was at lunch, we had got a phone call from somebody else that he had called also, and so me and my husband was.
Before we jump subjects here, and I do just want to point out, we had a bunch of comments come in that are like fire emojis, like please keep this going, like this is huge. So we're gonna dig through this. I'm being conscious of our time, but we are gonna. This is huge. This is big. This is how you buy houses. So. Something happened that I've now forgotten.
Talking about he had earlier when we was at lunch, been lost.
Well, oh yeah. So there's a chapter in Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, which is one of my Bibles of negotiation, that talks about like the social proof aspect of things. And here's what you may not realize. I actually figured this out many years before reading that book about like interpersonal relationships, but I didn't know how to apply it to like this type of situation. But did you realize that people are going to that you use to describe somebody else to you? Okay. So if you are like, dude, that person's a snake and all they do is try and screw people over, subconsciously, that person is now appropriating the word screw people over to you. So I never talk. I say so. There are multiple reasons. One, because I think that it's just the classy thing to do. But two, from this kind of thing, I don't talk bad. I try very hard to not talk bad about people. This is one of the reasons why I hate the whole like goon squatting, like let's all jump on everybody and talk bad about somebody. It's a cheap way for rapport, and it's a hot light that burns out real quick. I don't want to, anyway. So if we talk well about somebody, especially when they're competition, that shows that we are able to elevate above that, and it's going to apply the words that we use for that person in our seller's mind to us. Like if I'm working, and I don't want to, I could spend forever on this, but if I'm working a lead that has not been referred to me, and I know that there are other people that she has appointments with or whatever that might be, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm either going to say, oh yeah, I've actually never heard of them, and then there's something more to go on that. Or I'm going to be like, oh yeah, you're going to be talking to, whatever, Jason McDougall. Like, yeah, that guy's awesome. Like, I like him a lot. He's going to make you a good offer. And so just listen to, see who you want to go with, and go from there. I'm always going to talk up my competition, because if my competition then in turn comes in and they're like, no, screw those guys, they're all stupid, blah, 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 blah. The seller wants to work with the person who has a positive outlook. And that's going to be you. Popped in here in the comments in different places talking about, are you actually making offers over the phone on a cold call? When we want to get time, aren't we trying to get appointments for the initial phone call? How would you do this if you are not at market? if you're not actually in that market. And that's actually the model that we have shifted to now. So since last year, Q3 of last year, I moved models to where now my acquisitions guy and my dispositions guy spend all day behind a computer screen making phone calls, and my ops manager spends all day behind, and sales managers spend all day behind the computer screen managing those team members. My partner, I've bought houses in 6 or 7 states in this last 3 or 4 months. So and some of those being sub-twos, right? So we are contracting over the phone with DocuSign and then sending boots on the ground through topic for another day. And we will be digging into that. Like for the mastermind next weekend, we'll be digging into that for the Creative Cash Flow Mastermind. But that is still possible. It's just not what we did here. And we'll talk about a little bit of, like, as we have prepared, like Marcus Foster was talking about, aren't we trying to get the appointment from the initial cold call? Yeah, so on this one, I got the appointment. I made sure that the decision makers were going to be there. I made sure she was prepped to understand that we were going to be signing contracts tonight. And I made sure that she told the other decision maker I was coming. Anything you want to add on to that, Daniel?
No, in fact, one of the things that I actually picked up on this call that I've never done myself is prepping the seller for the signing of the contract that night. That's something that I've never done before, and it's definitely something I'll store in my toolbox for the future use. Is like when I'm on that call, we'll make sure that they know that when I show up, the intent is to sign contracts.
Yeah, because again, they don't know. They may have a different impression of what that appointment's supposed to do. So it's a great opportunity for you to teach them how that's going to point out on Facebook. Yeah, I use the word contracts. That's a thing. Like, some people want to use paperwork. Some people want to use different words. I use the word contract because it is.
Yeah. I would have been lost because my husband told me earlier when we was at lunch, we had got a phone call from somebody else that he had called also. And so me and my husband was talking while we was eating, and he told me, he said, well, because the first people we called was DFW home buyers. We called them first. Uh-huh. And then he called back, and he only referred me to a Chris Arnold. And then I called him, and it was like they couldn't do anything to help me out. And then and so I called them back, Josh. I called Josh back because we actually had a postcard from them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was put on my box like sometimes last year. Well, for some reason,
we had a postcard from them sometime last year. How many times, Daniel, have you on a piece of marketing you sent a year ago?
Actually, quite often, especially on my probates. A lot of the times, the probate people will store that marketing and keep it, and I've heard from probates years after I've sent them. So that's not uncommon for me on my side.
Absolutely a key principle to why the snowball effect matters. Because if you consistently send marketing, you will consistently be getting calls from marketing you sent months ago. And the longer you're going, the more of those old ones are happening along with your current ones. And that's why your return rates get.
Then I held on to it. Well, I never got rid of it.
Yeah, a smart person does that because you never know when you're going to need to grab onto that again.
Yeah, and so I called him, and he was telling me today, he said, well, you know what? It seemed like these people are the only people that's really getting anything done. He said, because the first people you called, it was like they just didn't want to help at all.
Mm-hmm. Notice there how we made that wholesaler look better. See, this is another pitch of how you're going to be working with wholesalers. Did you hear that her husband said, man, these wholesalers are actually working to get, they're the only ones that are actually working to get anything done for us because they referred it to us. Now we're all going to make money. They look better. We all make money, and they get a house sold that wasn't going to be able to sell.
And that's one of the things exactly that I like about Josh and that group is because, they did take the time to do some research and see, because just like the first people you talked to, and even Josh, when you're having to buy with all cash, you've got to get that discount, and not everybody's in that spot. You're not in a spot where you could take a $45,000 offer because who has $20,000 sitting in their bank account just to sell a house? You would have to come up with that cash. So Josh reached out to us because we've got a pretty good name here in the Metroplex, and so they reached out to us knowing that we're able to buy houses in the way that we are. And he said, hey, I think you can take care of some of the people that I'm not able to take care of. What do you think about working on this with us? And so
social proof. People know that we're the people to go to. My conversation with him was him telling me, I know that Grant right. We're letting all
kind
this
of
stuff
growing a
come to life.
partnership from there, and that's how we're able to get things done for you.
Well, I sure do appreciate it. And what's the name of your company?
So my company's name is Triple Equity. That's going to be the company that's buying the house from you. But just to further explain a little bit into our operation here, you know, between me and my partners, we own a law firm, we own a title company, I own a mortgage brokerage, you know, we own Triple Equity, which buys and sells these houses. We own a real estate brokerage, you know, we lend money.
Obviously, these things will not be. I'll skip forward that. That's not going to be things.
Get ready to make a move. Just asking God to help us with this.
Which makes us a good
Well, good.
one-stop shop for people like yourself.
Well, good. I'm really glad to know that. I mean, I have really been praying and asking God to help us with this because I really feel like, you know, that God is in this because I've learned by experience when you get ready to make a move, I don't care if it's a spiritual move or a physical move, and you pray about it first. If you feel uncomfortable about it, you better just stay still.
Yeah.
You know, just wait until you hear, you know, the Lord. But then if you go to do something and you feel good about it, you know, and you just know, you know, that it's going to work out because you have that faith.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that, you know, that the Lord's, you know, all in it.
Well, absolutely.
You know, and that's the way I feel about this. You know,
Good.
I just feel like that God is really in all this right now.
Well, I'm glad that I'm glad you prayed about it. I'm glad you've considered it and known what you're getting into and everything. And you know, you see that prayer work. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here talking. You never know. You know,
right.
Things start happening whenever you start trying to make it happen and start looking in the right places. So.
Yes, it does. Okay, then. Well,
so I want to point out that you know, so I'm a strong believer. I am Christian. I very much try to live my life, and I fail constantly on that, but I very much try to live my life on those principles. I am very careful of bringing that up to sellers because it is I saw it happen early on a couple of times, and I didn't like it because if I were to have shared Christian and that I believe in the power of prayer and blah, 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 and like gone through all of those things, she may have made an unwise financial decision influenced by, well, God sent this man into my life because, like, you know, look, religious moment, right? So if you share a religious belief with somebody, this is a little bit of a sandbox or a soapbox, but you saw there, like, I addressed it and I do agree. I'm not going to try and hide it. But I'm not also going to be like, oh, this is a great time with them because I think that that's unethical. I think that there's an ethical balance between bringing up a spiritual connection with somebody when you're in a sales position because it might unduly kind of influence the decisions that they're making based on their religious views, and I don't like how that sits. Are you agree with that, Daniel? You have anything?
I don't really have anything to add to that. I mean, for the most part, everything on this calls is done. So for me, on my side, when I get to the point where I know that the property is sold, I do my best to keep my mouth shut. I try not to say much beyond that that's not necessarily required because anything I say from that point moving forward runs the risk of damaging what I've built. So once I get to the point where I've got a yes, I really slow myself down quite a bit and leave the questions up to the seller, and I'll answer them as appropriate. But I do my best to move on as fast as I can once I know that I'm good there. And that's just because I have been in situations where I messed something up because I was at a yes and then I screwed up. And I try my best that once I know I've got the yes to end there.
Yeah. I think we got like 30 or 45 seconds on here. I could overview it, but I promised you guys that we would go start to finish. So I want to give you the full call so that you understand we're not just away.
I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight, okay?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll be there, like I said, about 7:45 or 8. What's your husband's name?
His name is Sean.
Sean, do you spell that S-H or S-E-A, or how does he spell that?
S-H-A-U-N.
Oh, S-H-A-U-N. There's so many variations. At one point in time, I had 6 friends named Sean in my group.
Oh my goodness! I bet you had fun with
by
that,
their
didn't
last
you?
names. Yeah, absolutely. We got SHEAU, we got SHE, just all kinds of different things. So we just started. Well, okay, forget it. You're going by your last name. I'm tired of this. All righty. Okay, well, Ramona, I'm going to look forward to meeting you and Sean tonight. And do me a favor, have a mortgage statement, just your most recent mortgage statement. Have one of those handy, because that's going to have some of the information that we'll need on it in order to get everything contracted up. Okay.
Okay, and we do have one. It's actually on my refrigerator.
Perfect. That'll make it nice and easy for you to find.
Okay, then.
All right. Okay, well, I look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
There you go. So I'm glad that we played that last. I forgot that those were in there. Couple of things. Your conversation should be rapport sandwiches. We start with a laugh, we end with a laugh. The point that Daniel was making of like, hey, I try to dismount pretty quickly. I try to dismount on a high note. When they hang up that phone, there should be no questions left. It should be like, man, that felt good. So just like I jumped into real estate as soon as I got the laugh and we were connected, similarly, I want to dismount on a laugh, on connection, right? So I found that maybe a little bit of rapport time with the whole Sean story. And then, very importantly, similar to, hey, we're going to be contracting this tonight, what was the other thing that I made sure was going to happen tonight? I've already made sure that all the decisions were going to be, or decision makers were going to be there. I've already let them contract, or we're there to sign the contract. What was that last thing right there at the end? Did you hear it, or were we ADD'd again?
I'm bad ADD. For anybody that doesn't know me, for me to stay on topic for
no
anything
big
is
deal.
impossible.
I know you do. That make sure you've got the most recent mortgage statement with you, because sellers don't know what their balance is. They don't always know what their interest rate is. Oftentimes they think they know, and it's wrong. So if you can get a recent, you're gonna have so much more information of what you need to actually contract that house. If you just have their mortgage statement, right? You can tell if they're behind on payments. You can tell how much they're behind on payments. You can tell what their interest rate is, what the principal balance is, what the escrow is, all that kind of stuff. And those things like account balances and account numbers need to be put on your subject to contracts, which, by the way, creativecashflow.com offers for you. So a way to contract these houses, members of creativecashflow.com do have downloadable subject to contracts. I will never not point to like, hey man, I learned this business through Scott Horn's partnership, and I think kind of the golden standard of contracting and closing and that kind of stuff for a sub-2 deal. So there's another option there as well. But members of creativecashflow.com, I did get white labeled contracts made that I think are good, and that we use.
So on my side,
you can, if you're a member there, you can get there. It's creativecashflow.com. I'm actually, so during this pandemic where we are running a deal occasionally to help people with the private, we're running 50% off. So today, if you use the code COVID call, COVID CALL, no spaces, either all caps or all lowercase, you'll get 50% off membership, and that will give you the subject to contracts. It'll give you my negotiations masterclass videos, my negotiations quick tips. It'll also give you like rules of thumb of how you can very quickly tell if it's a deal or not with Sub2, as well as we've kind of that are on like the Propelio Academy, which are free and you should check out for sure. Go to propelio.com/academy and look at those. And you know, that kind of stuff. We kind of put it together, and we're doing exclusive streams on that side of things too. I did promise that I was going to give you a link to where you could go watch or on your own. And that link is creativecashflow.com/UTMS. Okay, so I'm going to drop that in here in the comments for you guys. So you can rewatch this call. Bottom kind of describing things out. And please comment in here how you felt about this, how you felt about today's call. Did you like it? You know, what kind of things were going on there? And Daniel, I'll pass off to you because I think you guys need to take an opportunity to listen to what Daniel has to offer.
Well, there's a few things that I want to point out there on
looking at the leads and all that.
On the subject to subject to contracts. The one that I use is the same one that you used from Horn, and yours will be modeled, I'm sure, off of your experience with Subject 2. So in a similar way, that addendum's like 28 pages long, something along those lines for the Subject 2 transaction. Don't just go out there and Google Subject 2 contract and then just go out there and start using a 3-page Subject 2 contract. That is probably the fastest way to find yourself in the losing end of a problem. Those contracts from my side, you're probably looking at $5,000 to $10,000 to get those contracts made. And then if you take it yet again, even a step further from there, the knowledge required to put into them is quite important. So for the contracts that Grant has made, I believe that the value that he's providing by getting those contracts to you with everything else that's going on is something you should definitely be looking into. And then for anybody that does not know, this is Propelio.com. This is Propelio TV. If you have never gone to Propelio.com, please go out there and check us out. For those that need access to lead lists, leads that could lead you to these types of Subject 2 transactions, for people that need a website and an email for their business that gets them away from Gmail and Yahoo and gives them a professional website to establish credibility, Propelio.com gives those to you as well, in top of Driving for Dollars app and National MLS Comp. So if you have any of those problems that need to be solved, please check out Propelio.com. And for the 150-ish people that have been watching this consistently throughout the show, give us some likes, give us some shares, give us some love. If you feel like you've gotten something out of this, got to see some real life, on the phone negotiations. You saw this, how simple this deal went forward. It wasn't some crazy pawn star style negotiation craziness. It was just a conversation. And that's really what it is. When you have a person that has a problem that hasn't been able to get solved and you propose a solution, many times the call goes very simple. So that was a very simple call, very easy to move forward. Most of my Subject 2 calls were like that. About the only caveat that I would say that I've seen on calls outside of this is people that start asking a little bit more about how will this affect my credit? Will I be able to buy a house going forward? Will I have a due on sale clause? Because some people are aware of these things and they'll have more questions to ask about that. But you get those other 3 questions answered, and that's almost like 95% of all of your calls. They just want to know how they're going to be protected, and they want to get rid of it. And if you're the person that's willing to get rid of it and has those problems solved, the deal's done. It doesn't require a whole lot of negotiations. Point that. Cash discounts require a lot more negotiations, but when you have people that have already been told 9 times and you're the 10th person and you're like, okay, yes, they're like, thank you. Here's my house. Take it. Done. So this is not scary. This is not something. You just have a key group of 4 or 5 things that you need to figure out, and the rest of it's just your basic negotiations. So thank you, Grant Kemp from CreativeCashflow.com. For anybody that is not aware of Propelio.com, please go out and check us out. And any final thoughts on that, Grant?
Not necessarily. I want to address one question that came in on YouTube from Fernando, saying, quick question, how would you typically start the call if it was a cold call you picked up off a public they've never heard of you before? And I think that's worth addressing just real quick, because that's going to be another area that you're going to do this. Here's my basic principles to it. Just don't lie. Just don't lie about what's going on, right? So my cold calls start off something like this. Hey, is this Jim? This is Jim. Hey, I just wanted to reach out to you. I spend time kind of searching through public records in neighborhoods that I like, looking for people who might be looking to sell their house, and I really like the neighborhood that you're in. Considered selling your house before, right? And so I do a yes/no answer, but it's, have you ever considered selling your house? Not, are you considering your house right or selling your house right now? Because they typically, everybody has at some point in time consider. They usually say yes to that. And that's kind of how you get your foot in the door to start talking to them. Do not say, I drove by your house and really liked it, because you didn't. That's a lie. But there's a lot of negotiation foundations, which we're not going to go into today, by saying, neighborhood, I really like your neighborhood, and have you ever considered selling your house? It's a good way to get your foot in the door on this kind of stuff. Daniel's absolutely right. The Propelio Academy has amazing information out there. Propelio.com has amazing, websites and CRM functioning and all that kind of stuff. There's just so much you can get done on the comps. We use that for our comps. So please check out Propelio.com. Check out CreativeCashflow.com. If you guys like this, share it. People know about it. Feel free to request more calls. We can do that in the weeks in the future. But thank you so much for spending your time with us this Wednesday morning/afternoon, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you guys. Love you, and have a wonderful day.